Hi everybody, welcome to All Games New and Old. I'm David Rodriguez, and today we're going to be reviewing Dice of Crowns that came out in 2016 and Dice of Pirates that came out in 2018. Both of these games were published by Thing 12 Games and were designed by Sean Epperson and Brander Badger Roulette, or it could be Roulette. I'm not really sure. One of those, though. Anyway, these are both really cool, really fast-playing dice chucking games. And in order to tell you about the theme, I've gone through my special YouTube guest agency, and they couldn't hook me up with any royalty, but they did manage to score me a pirate to talk to, so I'm going to send it over his way.
Ahoy, matey. Pleasure to make your acquaintance. Must be quite an expensive piece of equipment you got there, letting you talk to me across time and space this way. But we'll talk about that another time. Today, landlubber, I've got two games for you. One, Dice of Crowns. If you've had your eye on being a member of the royalty, maybe this is for you. You roll dice, see who's deserving of a crown. But you know, I'm not a landlubber who likes the court, who likes the castles. For me, it's the pirate's life, which is why I like Dice of Pirates. You plunder, you loot, you roll dice to see who the best pirate will be. You take from each other, as it should be on the high seas.
That was pretty good, if a little menacing. So do all pirates really talk that way?
Not at all, actually. Pirates don't actually talk that way, even a little bit. We're from all sorts of countries around the area, you know, England, France, Spain. So, no, pirates don't talk like that, but we have to keep up the illusion. You know, people love that voice. Anyway, please you put a word in for me at the guest agency, I appreciate it. Work with you any other time. Just give me a call, okay? Great, bye.
That was kind of unexpected, but anyway, these games are fairly light on theme. I think I explained them pretty well, so let me send you over to the gameplay. Okay, I'm going to start with Dice of Crowns. I have the tins here for the game just to kind of separate the two players, player one and player two. You can play with more players than that, of course, but there's no need to show you all that right now. So the goal of the game is to be the first person to get 3 of these tokens. I'm going to grab these because I think they're really neat looking. Let's see if I can get them in here and have them show up okay. So those are the tokens you want to get 3 of. And if you do that, then you win the crown. Very nice. All right, so what you're going to do on your turn is you're going to take all 7 of these dice, and not too surprisingly, I think you're going to roll them. Now, depending on what you get, you're going to have different actions. So if you get a crown like this, you're going to go ahead and keep that, put that aside, because if you get 3 of those, you will earn one of those tokens. The skulls, well, that looks really dire, are also pretty good. If you get 5 of those, you'll get one of those tokens. So I'll put that aside as well. And I also have here 2 daggers. Now, if I already get 3, that would stop my turn immediately. So it's a little bit dangerous to do that. Now, I did not roll one of the signs. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to roll these over to the scroll side. Now, if I'd gotten those instead of the daggers, what I would do is I would pass this over to my opponent, and then they would get to take these and roll them for themselves. Now, if they get a crown like that, they're going to put that aside and keep that for their turn, so they won't have to worry about rolling that one. If they roll a skull, that'll go back to the initial player. A scroll will also go back to the initial player, and a dagger, they can decide which player they want to give that to. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll put this back to the original player. Now, you can reroll the skulls if you want to. If you think you can do better than that, you certainly can. But when you do roll them, you have to roll all the same symbol at once. So I have these 4. If I wanted to roll them, I couldn't just roll 1 or 2. I would have to roll all of them again. So that would give me another crown and a couple more skulls. And again, I've got the scrolls that would go to my opponent. They would roll. They got the skulls, so they'd send it back. So I kind of messed myself up, maybe, because I probably could have had 5 skulls. Instead, I don't. I've got like 2 crowns, 3 skulls. I could have rerolled this too as well. So, and dagger. So, yeah, so no points to me. I've rolled all my dice. That means it's going to go over to the other player. They're going to go and roll theirs and look for the same things. They're going to put these daggers aside. They are going to possibly reroll these, but first they're going to move these scrolls over to the opponent, who will roll them, and pretty much all this is heading back towards them. So I think in this case, this person will reroll this and hope for a skull, and they got a skull, so that's 5 skulls. So they're going to take one of these tokens and put that in their area, and they'll just go back and forth until someone finally has the 3 tokens they need to win the crown. Now that's just the basic game. It's really what I'm going to show you here. There are more advanced sort of modules you can add in, including adding these fate tokens in that you can earn, and they'll let you re-roll some of your rolls if you'd like to. There's also things that you can do where you have to like hold on to the crown for a round, and it's possible to get that taken away from you. So there's a lot of different ways you can kind of add strategy to this game. So it's very basic at its basic, still very fun, but if you want to add just a little more flavor to it, you could certainly do that. So that's how you do Dice of Crowns. So let me get to Dice of Pirates. Okay, so now I have Dice of Pirates set up. Now really I have it set up as if I was playing with more than 2 players, but I'm just going to show you 2 to get the idea of how it works. There's a 2-player variant in there. It just changes a few things. So I'm just going to show you the basic game here though. So much like Dice of Crowns, you're always going to roll 7 dice. The first player starts with 1 treasure token. Every other player starts with 2. There are also these loot tokens that you can get, which I'll explain later. You're trying to be the person to go a whole round with 7 treasure tokens without holding 3 Kraken-sided dice. So, you know what that. All right. So, on your turn, you're going to roll all 7 dice. Oops. And then, if you rolled any of these ship sides, you're going to choose an opponent that they will go to. So, we're going to send them over here. Now, this has to resolve first before anything else. So, then, this player is going to take these ship dice and roll them. And depending on what they get, you're going to have different things happen. So, if you rolled a ship, that's going to go back to the active player so that they can re-roll it. And then if you got the skull and crossbones, that will also return to the active player, who could choose to roll it along with like any other dice that have the same face on it, or you can use them to raid if you have 3. Let me show you what the other sides do though. If you get the treasure token side up, you will turn that to the active player as any face of the die. So you could put anything you want. You could give them a Kraken if you like. If you give them the treasure token, then you will receive one of these plunder tokens. So that's because you're kind of doing them a favor, I guess, by giving them the treasure. So that is an option though. If you do give them the Kraken, that will count on their turn after their initial roll on any ships are resolved. So like I said, you don't want to get Krakens, because if you get 3, that ends your turn, and also you can't win if you have 3, even if you have the right amount of treasure to do so. So moving on to the other dice faces. The Kraken, as mentioned, if you have 3 of them, that'll end your turn. I do have 3 of them showing here, but we're going to pretend that I don't, just for the sake of being able to continue on and show you things. If you have 3 of these treasure sides up, you can earn 1 treasure token that you'll keep for yourself. If you roll 6 of these, you can have 2 treasure tokens, so that's pretty good. You can also choose to roll them along with all dice that have this face on them if you wanted to try to get the raid side, which is the skull and crossbones, which I'll tell you about now. So if you have 3 or more of these skull and crossbone sides, you can choose to do a raid. You could also try to re-roll all those we have skull and crossbones if you just want to go for that treasure facing. So let's say I just got, here, let me flip this to something else. Let's say I just had the 3, and then I'm going to pick another opponent that I'm going to raid. I'm going to move all the rest of these dice aside. I'm going to put those right there for the moment. And then I'm going to take these, and I'm going to roll them. So, if I roll any ships, much like before, that will change hands and go to their side, which will allow them to counter attack. And basically, you're going to re-roll anytime you get the skull and crossbones, and trade every time you get a ship. And you're going to keep doing this until all the dice are either the treasure side or the Kraken side. So this one was on this side. I'll go ahead and re-roll that to see what I have. Okay, that's that again. We'll have these guys go. They got a treasure and the skull and crossbones. We'll roll both of those at the same time. Got a Kraken on this side. This will trade over here because it's a ship. It's going to re-roll that. Skull and crossbones. Going to re-roll that. Skull and crossbones. Kraken. Okay. So now we've got everything is either a treasure or a Kraken side of the dice. And so at this point, every treasure side that you have at the end of the raid will let you take one treasure from your opponent. So this person can take this person's treasure over to their side. The Kraken side doesn't help you in any way. If you have one of these plunder tokens, you can also discard that to take a treasure from your opponent as well. So that allows things to really change fairly quickly. So kind of fun to do those raids. A little different, something that isn't in the Dice of Crowns game. Now, one other thing that can happen is if you roll at least 6 sides that have the Kraken side, you can do and unleash the Kraken. And what you'll do then is you'll take your 7th die, you'll roll that, and then depending on what you get, it'll have a different effect. So if you roll a Kraken again, you lose 1 treasure, so that's not good. If you were to roll the Skull and Crossbones, the active player, which is you, will earn 1 plunder token. So that can be nice. If you get the treasure side, you earn 1 treasure. And if you get the ship side, you distribute 7 ship side dice. So you have to flip these all over. You can distribute those amongst all the players and resolve them. So that's how that works. So as I mentioned, there are ways to play this 2-player as well. And also, you can combine these 2 games and sort of make a hybrid of the 2, which is a little bit different. But I don't want to go into everything right here. I just wanted to show you how each individual game is played. Hopefully that was fairly clear. It's pretty simple once you get rolling on it. And get rolling on it. I didn't do that on purpose. But it is. And it's sort of get the hang of what all the symbols mean. Once you understand it without having to look at anything, it can go really very quickly, even with a higher player count. So that's how you play these games. Now to get to our final thoughts. All right, I hope that gameplay overview is helpful for you. We're now going to talk about our final thoughts. Just to be completely open about it, though, these copies of these games were both provided to us by Think 12 Games. So, starting with the art, there's not a lot of art in this game. It's all kind of plastic components. There's a little bit of art on the covers of the game, and it's nice, but not really, doesn't really have much to do with the game itself, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. There's not really a lot of artwork to talk about with these games. I think just jumping into the components is the way to go. I really like the components of these games. I really like that they're in small little Altoid type tins, so they're really easy to carry around. I can easily put one or both of them in my purse, and we're always kind of looking for fun games that I can just carry around with us so we can play with our kids or at a restaurant or something when we have some downtime. So I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that they kind of designed it for that type of gameplay in mind, and so they made all the components waterproof. So if you are playing at a restaurant or a bar and a drink gets spilled on it, you're not ruining your game. You can still play, just wipe it off and keep playing. So and then I think the dice are really nice. And the logos that they put on each side of the dice are nice, and they're readable, and you can see them at a glance. It's not like, oh well, is that symbol or that symbol? So
yeah, I mean every side is a different color, which helps for sure. And even I believe pretty well kept the colors and their general similar meaning the same between the 2 games, so it helps you learn the second one if you played one. But yeah, the dice, I mean, for those who care about it, the dice feel good. It hefty. They've got a good heft to them. I don't know why that matters, but it does. I don't know why. It just feels better to roll these chunky dice. The Dice of Crowns comes with a cool little crown. Dice of Pirates has a little ship for one of the variants in it, and those are both really nicely produced. So I love both of those. The tokens I really like a lot. I mean, they're just little plastic tokens, but I
they
just
could have
really
easily
dig them.
done cardboard, and like a lot of games do, but they upgraded it and went with the plastic ones, so that's really nice.
Yeah.
And I like that they put forethought into the games being able to integrate with each other. So they actually designed the ship so that it can sit inside the crown for a certain game scenario that you can play with both if you have both sets.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really neat for sure. Okay, so going on to the theme of the game, Kind of similar to the art. There's not really a ton of it here, to be honest. Like, they both have something... They both have a theme kind of attributed to them as far as what you're doing. You know, you're trying to gain the crown or you're trying to be the pirate with the most loot. You don't really necessarily feel like that's what's going on in the game, per se. Yeah, a little bit more so with Dice of Pirates. I feel like when you do the raiding, I can kind of imagine, like, the ships going back and forth, and even sometimes the party that's doing the raiding doesn't end up leaving the winner, which is neat. But still, I'd say pretty abstract dice games overall.
Yeah, I agree. There's a very loose theme with these games. It doesn't really affect the gameplay of it like some other games have. But there's a small hint of a theme, but it's not a lot. So, onto the gameplay. They both play very similar to each other. I like that both of them have like a starting core rule set, and then they each have like 3 to 5 maybe like additional rules that you can add in, and so you can kind of, if you get tired of playing it one way, you can try a different way, and it helps the replayability of the games a lot. I like that you can integrate both games together if you want to do that. With the raid of the Dice of Pirates, it does add a lot more game time to your playing. Even in the rules, I think it adds 10 to 15 minutes of gameplay, I think. But they're still both pretty quick games. It's just with the raiding, like, it can make a lot more back and forth and take longer for the winning scenario to actually happen.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. The thing with the raiding scenario is theoretically, everyone who wants to raid could keep attacking whoever has the most loot. And if the person who has the most loot keeps losing, then everyone's loot can kind of stay around the same area for a while. Now, granted, that's not necessarily likely to happen. You're going to hit some big swings here and there for sure, but it can go that way for a bit, so it could be a little bit hard to determine how long that game is going to take. But I do enjoy that kind of raiding aspect. I do think with Dice of Pirates, it might be a little bit more group dependent because you are directly attacking. You're choosing someone to attack specifically. And you could just be like, well, I always attack the person with the most loot. But at some point, you're going to come down to where it's like a tie between people and you have to decide who you're going to attack. So I think this works best in a game, or in a group rather, that where people are kind of like into that kind of, competitive, I'm going after you sort of thing, maybe a little trash talky. I think it suits that sort of group a little more. And I think Dice of Crowns may have a little bit more broad appeal as far as the groups it's going to hit with. I guess it sort of depends on who you're around, I suppose, in general. I think with the groups that we play with, Dice of Crowns might go over better than Dice of Pirates would.
Yeah, I think it definitely would, because, I know we've said this a few times, but like a lot of our group of friends that we play games with, like, they really like co-op games because they get too competitive and, like, they can't handle the tension of like really going head to head, and don't like picking on people or being picked on. So with that raid aspect, it's really easy to like have a player feel like they're being picked on or some of that. So
yeah, sure. Well, with all that being said, we'll move on to our final scores for these games. So they're very similar. And so it's really looking for the differences in how I feel about them. I like the slight bit of more thematicness in Dice of Pirates. I think the raid thing is kind of a neat idea. That being said, I do find that I'm enjoying the gameplays of Dice of Crowns a little more. I think it just feels like more of a fast thing where you're just kind of like going back and forth rolling dice, whereas, especially if you're in a group of people and there's raids and you have to wait for these people over here to finish their raid, and those, if you could more easily be not involved for a period of time. I mean, not a long period of time probably, but it could still happen. And I think I like the kind of more fast, kind of frantic pace of Dice of Crowns a little bit more. So with that being said, I'm going to give Dice of Pirates a 7 and Dice of Crowns an 8. Really like them both. Happy to play either for sure. But I guess, if I only could squeeze one of these in my pocket, if I was going to do that, I'd probably take Dice of Crowns with me.
I agree. I also like Dice of Crowns just a little bit more than Dice of Pirates. I do like for the theme, I do like the aspect of the raid, and even the mechanics of it. I like the idea of it, but when you're actually playing it, it can kind of just can really slow down the game. And so I really like how fast-paced the Crowns is and keeps up that momentum, where Dice of Pirates can start getting into some slogs and it can really kind of slow it down. So for me, I'm gonna give Pirates a 6 and Crowns a 7. I do really like these games. I like that they are really easy take and go games. There's just a little bit something there that is like, I like them, I enjoy playing them, and I feel like I want a little bit more out of them, but I don't know what that is, so.
Yeah. I think for such a short game, it's meant to be light and pretty breezy, so that's cool. And, they've got somewhere down the road here, there's a Kickstarter for Dice of Dragons, so we'll see what that brings to it, or changes it. I'm very, very interested to see what happens there. But yeah, those are our thoughts on those two games. I hope this video has helped you decide whether or not these games are right for you. If it has been helpful, please hit like and subscribe and click the little bell icon so you'll know about the next time we put a video. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you all around the table again at All Games New and Old.
Bye.
So with all that being said, we'll get to our final thoughts. So, I'm not forgetting that, that's right. What the final thoughts are?
Well, the whole thing's called Final Thoughts, so.
Oh, was it like that? Oh yeah.
Our grade.
Yeah. Okay, just make sure that switches on. I was pretty sure I turned it on, but it happened before, so.
Yeah.
Alright.
Good times.
So that, yep. Please. Otherwise, look forward to God again. Honestly.